and welcome everyone to Wednesdays with MDriven, May 2025. 2025. So, and what are we? First of all, I should start with: are there any open questions? Anything that is the elephant in the room that I won't mention because I have suppressed it in my memory or something like that? If it isn't, I guess I can go into what I had planned to talk about. And so you see my screen now? Yeah, good. And I don't know which ones of you that has seen the video where which I called vibe coding. And vibe coding is like a concept or a term that is gaining popularity, and basically what it means is that you put AIs and LLMs to heavy use to do the work for you. And by that, you don't really need to follow a process, you just wipe through everything, and it will be a result that might be practical or might not. And of course, there are hundreds of videos out there where presenters show LLMs like Anthropic and others that has really large context windows. So they just chunk all the code into this context window and ask for another feature or ask for the LLM to extend something, and it spits out code. It's sort of it's made for a good presentation, but one needs to be a bit skeptic if that's really the way forward, if that's the way things are going to be done in the future. After all, I wouldn't go to a contractor that would build my information system and just wipe something. I would like to have a pretty precise specification of what my needs are, just not saying something that comes to the top of my mind, because I will most likely forget 99% of the important stuff. And even if I only can convey 1%, then the contractor will only hear 50% of what I say. So the drop is pretty steep on what we actually have in the end, I think. But maybe I'm just too old and not feeling the vibe. I don't know. But that's we will see in the near future, because this is sort of moving fast. So, but all that put aside, there are some quite good things to the LLMs and their ability to take complex things and putting a bit of structure to it. And we shouldn't dismiss that. We should use that. And as we at MDriven are all about building sort of the perfect specification on what it is that we need and what it is that we have, our take on vibe coding wouldn't be so much to generate a system as to help us to verify the specification. Does it actually fulfill the things that I anticipated with my system? So for doing that, we have introduced a couple of functions. I'm going to make sure that we have the live editor downloaded here, so because there was some last minute changes done to it, so there always are. And once it's locally downloaded, it's unzipping it, and I'm going to start it. And as I start it, I get this window showing that the server is running, and we don't need to look at that. Then I say that I'm going to use this model with this server, and then we'll see the live edit. So the first video that I did was to show, we're going to create some data there, was to show the styling idea, because styling is, of course, something that we always sort of just skimmed over because it's hard to get something that looks good. But it has been improved a lot, I think, in the last couple of iterations in MDriven Designer, with all the theme variables that are present in the CSS style system are now available in the model, and they have a description on what they are supposed to do. And that would mean that one could immediately get feedback on how your application will look once it's styled. And colors is one thing, and also all the other variables that aren't colors. For example, what should the base border radius be. If I set this really high to make it show, I can see that these buttons really got rounded. And maybe if I were to, I can add some more buttons here. Add a column, and I'm going to add a button. And this is a new addition. We call these rescue operations. Whenever there are errors here, there might be an easy operation that can be performed directly, and they will be present here next to the errors. And if there are, you can just click that, and that will move this button to a conflict-free position. Of course, I could grab the button like this and move it, but if I can also just push this button and it will find a conflict-free position to remove the error. So there's a couple of errors that are like this. So this particular number only affected these these kind of buttons. But if we were to attack the font size, so we get some immediate effect there. So that's all well and good, but of course a lot of work to get everything done. So the obvious vibe thing would to ask someone else that is slightly better than me in dealing with colors and has what do you say, the advantage of having read the entire internet to help me to style my application, make it look like Slack in dark theme. And before this locked the UI, now it's async, so you can continue to work with certain things if you want that, and this window will close once it's done. And I think it shouldn't be too long. We have upgraded the LLM that we use. We now use Gemini, Google's LLM 2.5, and that's supposedly a bit better, but I think also a bit slower. It's always like that. The better, the slower. So come on, and suspense. So maybe we should go back and talk about the weather. So that
is there a timeout if it just has...
Yes, but I guess it will from time to time. It takes quite a long time, but it usually gets back with a result. And I've put the timeout up a bit just to avoid that we stop waiting for an answer that is in the making. But this might be one of the added benefits of the new Vibe strategy, that we get time to get to know each other. Of course, we are all developers, so there's not much to say. It's a bit of a letdown. Okay, let's see.
Is there a way to just try again?
Yes, but I want to give it a fair chance to say what's... Okay, so it came back with a CSS for us that turned most of everything black. And that's good. It's sort of not too far off from how Slack would have done it. It set colors on these buttons as well. It's good. So I guess that's a fair weight to get a result that's not worthless. And of course, that was just the vibing, and I could have asked it for anything else to give me a theme. And this is, of course, the theme of the style, of the complete system. So that doesn't, if I would navigate around, I can turn off the edit here to remove the move widgets. That would be no matter which UI the theme would follow. So that's the main thing about theming, that follows along the whole system. I wrote at your suggestion last instruction or information up here with a link to our wiki, and showed up over here, where we talk about there are really two distinctive different way to apply styles. So one is the overall theme and look of the application, and that's what we did here. And another way that we have talked a lot of before is a way to convey information from data via special typing. And that's sort of a different use, but they are both styles. And I think it's a good idea to make this clear that we have two different purposes for styling. So if this is the theme styling, which we can hide now that sits there. If I want to really make use of this, I would probably move this fast track CSS into my TK user so that it sits in a better position, because then I can override certain values with the variables. The precedence of applying CSS is first the TK user CSS, then first the variables, then the TK user CSS, and last the fast track CSS, if I'm not mistaken. But of course we may want to convey information like this integer. If this one turns negative, we might want that to highlight in red or something, and that doesn't have anything to do with theming of the application as such. And to do that, we have this other way of styling that we call the, so if I'm going to turn on edit again, so I can select this, or rather that one. So this is the sum int attribute of the thing class, and I'm going to add a style reference here. And I'm going to, if I pick a style, I can see that there are none to pick from because I haven't defined them. And to define, I simply go to the style dialog, either this shortcut or it's available here, and that showed up on another screen. And there I have another text pointing to pretty much the same wiki page, because that's the lower part of it. How to define styles that are going to be used to convey information. In this case, we want to convey that a value is negative. So I'm going to create the style, and I can call that negative value, for example. And that's the name of the style. What do I want with this style? Maybe the component content. I want to change that to red. So then I activate the component content target, and I will need a color to set as a fill color for this. But I don't have any colors defined. I'm going to add a color and say that that's really, really red. And I can also say that this is red to help me find it. And then I say that I want to pick, oops, that was hard. I want to pick the red color. So negative value component content should be red. So that's a style that I can use to convey values. In fact, it's not correct to name the style of the result. I'm just going to call this red style. I think that will be better when I come over here and say that now I want to apply a style. And of course, I can just pick the red style, and that's good. Then this is red, but if this is positive 23, it's still red. So that's really not all that I want to do. I want this to be an expression, and then I want to edit this expression instead. And what do I want to do? Yes, I want to do self.sum integer is less than 0. That's negative. And I'm going to do a case true, false, which is the shorthand for then else. And that takes 2 arguments. What should we do when we are true, and what should we do when we are false? And when we are true, we want to return the red style. And then I could just put a string like this. And if I'm false, I don't want any style at all. So that would probably be fine. Some int, it was called. But of course, this is a bit brittle, because I might get back to my styles like I did just now and say, oh, I don't want to call it red style. I want to call it the reddest style or something. And then a reference to it, just typing it like this isn't very type safe. So all the styles are available on the variable self-vm, self-vm.styles. And then I can do red style. I will find the ones that I've defined here. And that would sort of give me a rule that's much better, because now whenever this turns some value under 0, it turns red. And if I were to remove it and say that it's 0, it turns white again. So that's a completely different way to apply styling that hasn't anything to do with the theme as such. But I digress a bit, because I said that I wanted to talk about vibe coding. And where can we use vibe when it comes to UI design? Well, I've so far come up with a few strategies or ways. I'm not sure if they're all good, but one way would be to be able to express the plan. What is it that I want with this UI in clear text? This way, if I'm part of a bigger team, and I'm sort of dividing out assignments to 5 different developers, it might be very easy for me to create the view model and say that this view should show all the, I'm going to say, most things of the class thing. And if that's all I can think about at this point, that's fine. Then I can send that off to the LLM, and it will do an analysis of what are here already, and does that match the things that I said that I want. And if it doesn't, it should update some kind of feedback on what's left to do. So it says, let's see if I can make this a bit big. So the view model view1 thing is rooted in the thing class, and that's good. Information shown and control rules for view thing. So it's stating the obvious, but in clear text. If I'm a person that's not savvy to OCL, that's probably helpful to give me information on what's here. And one can think that all of these text could be pulled out to a giant documentation to build a book of what the system does. Here it says that the styling, if some int is less than 0, it applies the red style, which is correct. And it says where we can navigate, etc. So that might be a good addition where we actually can have some good use of verbalization of what's in the view model. What's new is also this Vibe UI design. Once I start it up, it will start by so the prompt to the LLM is basically make a nice foldable UI that uses placing containers and group things together based on naming and content. So the idea here is that the LLM should be able to, if I have a UI with a lot of different boxes with different information, it's not necessarily, and it goofed big time, didn't do anything good, it removed everything. So that's the 10% of the fallout. And then I would just go Control Z, and then I would get another chance. I can do 2 Control Zs to get back to where it was. But the aim here is that if I have a grid-based UI where the names from the view model columns sort of make sense in a context that they should be presented together, the LLM should be able to make that deduction and put those close together and provide a UI suggestion for me. So that's the goal with this operation. Let's see if it is able to produce something this time. It didn't do very much, but on the other hand, to be fair, it wasn't very much to act upon either. What it did do was to turn my data table that I had here with the headers, turn it into a list view instead. So we can see just how that would work if, so yeah, so it would look like that. But at least it hasn't done anything out of the ordinary. Everything is just as if you would have applied these changes yourself, and you're totally free to change around things after it's done. So it's just, there's no magic to the result. The result is only model. And that's, I think, a very crucial strategy that we're going to apply throughout with these vibe functions, that we won't do anything. The result won't be a black box. The result will always be model. And then the model will go the normal way through the MDriven deterministic logic that always, if it's type safe or if it is type coherent, produces a valid information system. So I think a very much viable approach to get vibing going. If we don't expect it to write code that is really hard to read and that we really don't own ourselves, it's not us that are the author, so we are not familiar with it. It will take time to get into it. But if we instead make these small areas where one UI can get some vibe touch to be lifted to a placing container structure that let's see if this one was made to fold or not. So it did, so this one goes under when it's really tight in space. And if I don't like what it did, I can always just delete the things that I don't like and be back in some other. Do you have any reflections and questions on that one? Of course, since these functions only do model, all the things will go together. So the fact that we did apply a theme is totally irrelevant to our change of the view model definition. That's all additive. You can add all of these things without any fear of collisions. If there aren't any obvious questions on that, I've thought that I should explain how I see the next step, because this was about getting some help with the theme, which at least I appreciate a lot, because I think this is hard to make theming and colors. And the next step was to get help with the actual placing container layout, and I think that also is a step forward, lowers the threshold for getting going. But what about information? We would like to find a way to express information need and get suggestion of what classes and associations we need based on a text. And the idea that I have, because it will be impossible, I fear, to feed everything to an LLM, no matter how large context window it has. It won't be any good. It won't scale. It will do a lot of strange things with existing stuff. Speaking of that, I can just share an anecdote with when I did this UI updating vibe. I used GUIDs as identifiers of view model columns. And I couldn't understand why it failed when it read back until I diffed versus the output. And then the LLM has changed random numbers in the GUIDs because, well, temperature isn't super high, so I'm free to vibe a bit. I can change this 9 to an 8. Seems fair. And of course, that's devastating for, basically for anything that isn't strictly artistic.
So you were vibing some IDs, basically.
Exactly. Everything is open for vibing. So one need to experiment a lot on how to actually prompt it and feed it and avoid confusing it, because it's easily confused by GUIDs. So that's not a good idea to feed it any GUIDs, unless you want random GUIDs back, because then it turns out it's a pretty good idea. When it comes to going back to the need to define, to get some help with vibing information, my idea, and I don't know if you agree with me, is to add a new class diagram and have that empty. And if we somehow here could get in a text prompt on what we want to add to this diagram. So we would sort of limit the context for the vibing to only be what's on this diagram. And that would mean that if I know that this is going to reference the logged in user and everything, that's called sysuser in this model. So then I can just drag that onto this diagram, and then I know that this is included in the vibing when it comes to solving my information. So for example, I'm seeing nothing of this is done yet, but it's not too far off, that I would be able to, right, I got it, books up here, to write things like, I need classes to hold, school and pupils and subjects that are in the different. Now I'm going to write classes again, and then I realize that it's setting me up for failure. But different classes held in the school. And if I were to ask for it to first give me classes that fulfill this need, I suspect that it would do okay. It will do the obvious things. I also want to have it to add the obvious associations and the obvious attributes per class needed. And those would be added to the diagram and to the model. And if I don't like it, I can just delete them, or I can drag in more things and associate. But the whole idea that I have with the vibing when it comes to this is to have it produce more model in a controlled, limited way. And from that, apply the other MDriven functions to do a view model for those view models for those classes if need be. So I think that would be a good framing to how to get the context neat and clean, but still helpful. Reflections. I guess I can actually do what is called Gemini. If I just were to produce UML classes solving this. Yeah, so basically it suggests good things. I just needed to feedback this in a structured format so that the MDriven designer can make use of it and instantiate the classes on the diagram. It provides attributes for some of the things, associations as well. Oh, it also draws a diagram in word art. That's super helpful.
Even better, ASCII art.
Yeah. So I in my imagination, I can just pop up in a month's time. I can just pop out a diagram, write or copy a text, get classes and associations and attributes. Right click to get view models defined for those. On each of those view models, I can vibe the UI to bring in what's needed, and then I can ship to someone. At least I can demo. Sounds doable?
Yes.
You were saying, Lydia? Do you wait for this? Because then you can wipe your whole day away.
No, I think that sounds impressive.
Because once we have done that wiping, so we have a coherent working information system, might not do what we want, but hand on heart, information systems never do what we want. That's why we never get done with it. It's always one more thing or 10 more things, and that's sort of just the way it is. Because once you have something, you are in a new plateau and you have new ideas and you want to add new things. So that's totally fine. But if you were able to wipe everything in place to get something, then you would have a good starting point to discuss around with the client or with a colleague about ideas on how to solve things. And then once everything is coherent and there are no red dots with errors, things that doesn't compile, so to speak, the next step is to use this new function, Azure servers, to simply publish everything to your own account in Azure and run it in an open setting for anyone to access. And that, I think, is some kind of full circle.
When you've been working with these LLMs to get things to happen, is there a way to prevent them from rethinking things from the beginning and just messing up things? Is there a way one can say, it's like, don't change anything I didn't ask you to change, only change these things? Because if you're creating a text, for example, with the help of ChatGPT, it really likes to start over with the text.
Yeah.
And then it's like, whoa, but I just, checked that it's correct.
Yeah.
Now I have to check it all again. Don't, mess everything. You would say, it's like, this should be the same and this should be the same, but the middle part, please rework that one.
Mm-hmm. Well, you have to instruct it like you would a child. So just pull out the part that you want revised and say that only focus on this part and only return an updated section of this. To allow it to dabble a little bit here and a little bit there, it's just like giving it a pack of GUIDs. It will get bored and it will change them. So and that's one can press play multiple times and there will be a different result each time.
Exactly.
And that's as far from coding as that's the antithesis towards coding, right? You want to have one set of requirements should preferably give the exact same code each time. If it doesn't, where does the variation come from? So they won't build any.
How to do it? Because do they put like a time in there? So just like they have a random number generator to give it a bit of a thing.
So everything.
Otherwise, I don't understand how it can come out different.
Yeah. So everything is probabilistic, and there's lots of things that have equal probability. And as soon as they have equal probability, it's pretty much random which one that's going to win. It will only it will take the most probable, but in many choices along the way, it won't be an obvious choice, and it will take one of the ones that are equal.
So in this case, if we were to have this built in as a feature to work with the model,
Yeah.
is there a way that we could generate some like instructions that says like, hey, please focus on these things now, don't go.
So that's why I think it's important to have the diagram as the playground, so to speak. It's not allowed to pull in any other information than what I have on the diagram. So that's one limiting factor. It's basically the UML way, a UML compatible way to create the prompt on this is what I have. Those are the classes that you currently have on the diagram. This is what I need. Now you know what I have, you know what I need, figure out what to add. And then we will get back a list of classes, and then we will need to check those classes. Do I have this already? Because it's not, I might have such a class, but it's not on this diagram. So we don't want to create a double ganger of the same name. Then we want to use that one instead to discover that, okay, we're talking about the same subject. So apparently the LLM has found out that this thing that I used for in another setting for another use case is needed here as well. Okay, pull that in. So it's hard to predict how this will turn out, but it's I think it's an intriguing line of inquiry to see, can this be the discussion interface towards modeling? Because that would also lower the threshold. I don't expect anyone that is fluent in modeling to write the text like this and send it off to an LLM. But I do expect that a lot of people that aren't fluent in models will have this as an entry point to see how it's done. And once they see how it's done, they if they want to do a small change, they don't want to ask the LLM to do the little change. They will pretty soon learn the interface. Oh, I'm going to drag this. I'm going to change the cardinality of this association because that makes more sense now that I understand this.
That makes sense. I think Charles have been having his hand up for a long time.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, and forgetting about that and going into the conversation. Yeah, I was just going to say that it will be very interesting because I'm imagining all these efforts and at the end an application which you've generated using the LLMs or using AI, and then to these others that people are creating whereby AI is generating code. I feel like, yeah, with the modded version, it will be much cleaner and it's easier to read than AI generating for you plain code. Yeah, that can get very messy very fast.
Yes, that's exactly my fear. That's an cul-de-sac to move down that road to have it generate something that's obscure like code, and that doesn't really make sense. If you have, it's not the code that has the value; it's the understanding. And if you delegate that to someone that produces a result that you don't understand, where is the value then? Might be valuable for you because you can leave the premises and have someone else maintain it, but it won't be valuable to anyone that gets stuck with it.
Or it's anti-valuable to you because project management thinks now you're expendable.
Yeah.
Have you tried using the LLM? I know you've done this before LLMs, Hans, to verbalize the whole model, and we have even talked about it. But
yeah.
Have you made any concrete like examples on generating, for example? You showed it basically on the view model, but I mean also like to store it back into the model to make it available to an end user.
Yes, so that would be, of course, one use case to generate, for example, all actions and all buttons in the system. The user will want to have some kind of explanation what it does. And if we easily can have the LLM produce English text, and we can store that back as so that it's not something that we need to generate on the fly and get sort of a online help system that's generated from the OCLs, because we don't want to expose the OCL. That might contain something sensitive or be propriety, or I'm particularly proud of this construction and I don't want to share it with the world. It's mine, kind of thing. But the textual representation is definitely something that would be helpful to give a user. And I think definitely in such a help system, I as a user would like to get the answers that we normally get in the model, like this right click, where is this used? Where can I edit this? Where is this deleted? To get some help in navigating in plain English, to find how to move around in the system to get to the functions that I'm seeking. So we before we had this meta at MDriven or meta.mdriven.net, which basically uploaded the model and we verbalized it with some pre-LLM strategies, just having pattern recognition from OCL to produce text, and that was it's really hard to produce quality prose text that's easy to read and easy to understand. It directly gets very repetitive. It says and 5 times, and that is not something that any user will find useful in reading because, oh, this looks like code. But the LLM is much more subtle in transforming that into proper English. So that's a step forward, and we're gonna I don't know if that strategy with meta.mdriven.net is gonna survive, or if we're just gonna fold it back into the model itself, or into Turnkey as some kind of service to be decided.
Because I think in a little while we'll all be so used to having AI help for different things. I mean, I just needed to repair a database today, so I just asked, how do I do that? And it, I want to do it in PowerShell. And it's like, here you are. And then I copied that little code snippet.
Yeah.
So I guess users of systems will be annoyed soon if the system can't explain itself. It's like, what do you mean? I should register this. Tell me instead, stupid machine. And then you expect that to happen.
Yes. And it's important to note that this is basically the interface, how we interact with the user. The precision in the logic can't be fuzzy. The precision in the logic must still be 100% deterministic, like it is in when we model. And I think this is the easy thing to look past and to forget about when you're into AI will solve everything, because at the end of the day, someone needs to be responsible, and it won't be the AI. So then you will need the rule book. What are the rules? Were the rules followed? Who can guarantee that? Hey, this rule is wrong. Where do we change it? All of those things that will be really hard if everything is soft and AI all the way down. But it can definitely be soft, much deeper than it's the normal information system is soft today.
I guess the beauty of them are the context understanding that we have never had before. That's why the LLMs can give us, reasonable answers, although our question is very ambiguous and weak. There's a lot of inference going on about what we're actually talking about. And I guess that's what the kind of inference and understanding that you would expect from a running system in not so long. But on that note of context, I don't know how many have used Copilot in Azure. It is, I think, surprisingly bad at doing its job, because you ask specific questions about Azure and it seems like it doesn't know anything about Azure. It can talk about other things, but not how it works within Azure. So that's really weird, I think.
Yeah, I think they smacked it on everything, because let's see if it works. But it doesn't necessarily, it won't work on everything. And especially as soon as it's very detailed and very precise, that you can't just wing it. You need to know exactly what you're doing. Then it's
I think it's protecting company secrets.
Yeah, maybe so. It won't do it because it hasn't been given access to the internal SharePoint at Microsoft, so it knows less than we do.
Exactly. So it's better to ask ChatGPT and it looks at Reddit, and then it's like, yeah, I can give you some hints. But the Copilot inside, I mean, it gets it right sometimes, but as a tool to put out, it's kind of a sad thing. But I guess that's the problem, right? They haven't fed the LLM information about what's actually going on. It has some tools available to it, but it's way too weak on the details of what Azure actually offers.
So we're running out of time. I would like to thank everyone for showing up, and I hope that you can come back. And now it's turning into summer. We will come back with how we do with the next meeting. Anyway, have a great time. Until next.
Thank you.
Thank you. Happy vibing.
Thanks.